over the years. With your support, we've been provided with top-of-the-line equipment over the years to provide the services that are needed to protect the citizens. To speak on the increase first of the approximately $300,000, one of that added increase is moving to a 56-hour work week, which means utilizing the current career staff to cover more hours. Everybody knows we have approximately 250 volunteers that have saved the county numerous dollars over the years that we've served, and we continue to serve. But everybody knows during this economic time, some people's priorities have had to change from being more at the fire station or rescue station to more maybe a second or third job. So the service is being needed to be provided in a different way. We are still lucky in Caroline County to have the amount of volunteers we have versus the career staff compared to the surrounding counties. It's very needed. I ask that you try to support that and continue that. Also, along with that 56-hour work week, there's also some, I want to say promotions. I know that's hard when you're cutting positions elsewhere, but with this, with bringing on the fire chief and bringing us all under one department, that's bringing 250 more, technically, as Mr. Seeley told me before, unpaid county employees. So he's going to need the leadership also to help provide the guidance and services that are needed for the citizens. As far as the fire chief, I've heard a lot of comments about we overpaid for a fire chief. In my opinion, that salary isn't as great as it should be based on the amount of workload that he has to shoulder. If you look around us at other counties such as Hanover, Spotsylvania, that we're often compared to in different ways, that I want to say the top heaviness of their leadership in the fire and rescue to do the same job that he's doing, they have many chiefs in place. The fire chief has came in, brought us all under one organization. Every department now is working together as one. That is the first time in 15 years of being a member of this organization that we can say we are working as one. During these recent snowstorms, every department has come together with the leadership of Chief Lehman to make sure that coverage is provided, whether it's transferring people from one station to the other. Please consider the 56-hour work week along with the increase, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Satterwhite. All right, was there another citizen who would like to address the board on the public hearing? State your name and your voting district, please.
My name is Angela Wright in Madison District. Good evening. I debated on whether I should speak or not, and after listening to everyone so passionately speak, I thought that I had to stand up and tell you my experience. I live here in Caroline County. I've lived here all my life. But I came back here to teach after being in Spotsylvania for 12 years. When I came back here 5 years ago, people asked me in the community, and I also want to say, because it's very important, I'm a member of St. John Baptist Church. People asked me 5 years ago, why did you come back to Caroline County? I was in Spotsylvania County for 12 years. Why did you come back here? Why didn't you stay there? Because I truly want to make a difference in this county. And I can tell you when I came back here 5 years ago, the schools weren't where they should be. The middle school was not where it was supposed to be. A lot of hard work has gone in these last 5 years since I've been here. I've seen accountability, teacher buy-in, professional development training, dedicated staff, instructional leaders, meetings, collaboration, believing all students can, and I also want to add, my son graduated from school, went to George Mason, had no problems in the school system. My youngest son is in 10th grade with a 4.2 average and is a student athlete. The teachers here are awesome. Meetings. Everyone's job is important, from the custodians to the top. All means all. We've had new programs. The teachers are passionate. When I came here, teachers would sit behind the desk, not engage. I would go into classrooms now, they're engaged from beginning to end. There's truly a difference in this county. I'm so happy that Dr. Killo and the rest have come into this county. You're talking about someone who's passionate. He's always in the schools, and I'm just not saying this. If you know me, I'm going to tell it exactly like it is. I'm not going to say it just to make it sound good. But when you have the support of the central office staff, and when you see teachers truly evolving and changing, and they know that they can make a difference in the life of a child, it's something to be proud of. As I'm standing here and looking up here, Mr. Ashcraft, I went with his son 2 weeks ago, Beta Convention. We had 6 winners, 3 first place in the state of Virginia. Caroline County had 3 first place in the state of Virginia. We now go to Kentucky for nationals. This is what Caroline County is about. We've had the support. We do tutoring, remediation. What do we need? We need the money to continue educating our teachers. We need to raise the salaries, and we need to do all we can to support our teachers. I know your task is hard, but remember, if God brought us through the storm, He will take us through it. Please be supporters of the school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. All right, was there another that wants to speak to the board? Just come forward and state your name and your voting district.
Thank you, Mr. Roselle. I'm not a resident of the county. My name's Harper Donahoe. I'm principal of Caroline High School. I think it's reassuring that every person that spoke up here is speaking for the programs to support children. Nobody came up here and advocated for higher salaries for teachers. We want a pay raise, a step increase, or anything like that. Every person that came here wants these programs for children so we can help children succeed. And I think that should be reassuring to all of us here that we are concerned and dedicated to the children of this county. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any others who would like to address the board on this public hearing? And if there's anybody else who would like to speak, please come forward and stand in line.
Good evening. Wendell Sims, Mattapanai District. I had talked to Mr. Thomas a little while back. You know, I was saying, and Mr. Ashcraft, I felt that some of your comments were pointed at me, and about sharing the pain, because I know there's a lot of pain to be shared right now. And Mr. Thomas offered an olive branch this evening. He offered, and I hope the rest of the board supports him in his offer, of having a joint budget work session. Because many people came to our budget hearing saying that the school board needs to work closer with the Board of Supervisors. And I've heard other people tell the Board of Supervisors that they need to work closer with the school board. So I hope that the Board of Supervisors takes Mr. Thomas's suggestion very strongly, and I would look forward to working hand in hand with the Board of Supervisors as we lay our budgets open and, you know, talk turkey, you know, with the numbers and do the best that we collectively can do. I would look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sims.
Hello, my name is Hope Bailey. I am in the Mattapanai District. If I understood today correctly, we currently have a funding gap that was trying to be closed if we don't get the funding that the supervisors asked for. I think I understood you correctly, sir, to say that, Mr. Ashcroft, you were going to have to lay off or eliminate approximately 13 positions. If I understood correctly, the school board will have to eliminate 8 teacher's assistants, 6 elementary school teachers, 8 central office positions, 2 resource officers, 5 part-time transportation, and 11 secondary teachers. I'd say that's a lot more than your 13, sir.
Any other citizens who would like to address the board? If there's anybody else who want to speak, please line up.
Please forgive me, I wasn't planning to talk. I don't have much voice tonight. But I have to let this end. I cannot let it end without knowing. This is about the children. I'm Dee Beverly. I'm from the Port Royal District. My daughter just recently applied for governor's school. She had to write a essay. In her essay, she had to explain why education was important. In it, she had to say why she cared about education and why she wanted to attend. And I think the most important line she had in that was she said that she wants to learn, that she loves education, being educated. It's that education is a blessing. And that is one thing we have to take with us. We have to do everything we can to give this blessing to our children. We need to make, our teachers now make our children love coming to school. They make them want to be there and to get that education. We need to allow them to get that blessing. I know it's hard on y'all. Y'all have got a hard economic time. We have hard economic times where we're at. But y'all can work together. That's what I'm asking you to do. Pick, scrape every nickel, dime, anywhere you can find it to give that blessing of education to our children. Please work with our school board. Work with our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beverly. Any other citizens who'd like to address the board? Or any other citizens who'd like to address the board? Or any other citizens who'd like to address the board in this public hearing? Seeing none others, we'll close the public hearing. And moving forward, we've heard a lot of comments this evening, and we certainly did listen to them. I attended the public hearing the school board had when they had the budget, and I heard a lot of the comments at that time as well, so we know they're real. How we can make up these gaps, I'm not going to sit up here and promise anybody anything because I know it's going to be tough. Picking up any more. We can try to look at it at a work session. But we have talked to the school board in advance weeks ago, telling them what we thought we can afford, and we presented that weeks ago. We knew it was going to be $400,000 less than the current year, 400 plus. So, what more can we do? We've worked hard to try to make sure I meet regularly with the chairman in recent weeks. Are there some other things in the budget? I think it's up to the board whether or not we want to decide to set a work session date. I think there could be some synergies from some things we can find because, quite frankly, General Assembly is still meeting, and we don't know what's going to come out of, what else is going to come out of Richmond. So that alone may force us to meet again, just based on changes in the budget from Richmond. I think we're going to have some, unfortunately, from what I've been reading, I think we're going to have more issues to deal with. So since the public hearing, I don't know if board members have any additional comments that you'd like to project tonight. We heard a lot. We got a lot to think about, a lot more studying to do. The key thing is where we're going to find the money, where we're going to find the revenue. And, I heard the lady say, the school's going to have a whole lot more cuts than what the county has. Well, there's more people there. And, we're going to all feel some pain. And we know we're not going to dodge that. We're going to all have pain. And it's tough. Board members have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question of Dr. Killo, and if you could get to me or the rest of the board member wants it, the annual payroll for the school system as soon as you can. Thanks, appreciate it.
All right.
And also, if we're talking about a work session, We're looking at, it certainly should wait till after the General Assembly has
Yeah, we need them to
gone
finish.
home, and I would maybe, how about April the 11th? It's a Monday night, it's the night before, 12th, I'm sorry, it's the 12th, April the 12th, which is the Monday night.
School board meeting at night.
What time is your school board meeting?
It's 6:30.
And it normally lasts under normal circumstances?
10, 9:30, 10.
Can we wait at 10? No, it's 12. April 12th. You're not going to be here? Okay. How about that Wednesday the 13th, or the Wednesday the 14th?
14th.
No, no good. Mr. Ashcraft shaking his head, no good. Huh? I'm not going to be.
You can be in the
I was wanting
15th?
to make- I'm not going to be here. I was wanting to make the meeting, but I'm going to be here on the 15th. Can we meet early before the school board meeting?
It can-
Like 4:30?
Yeah. 3 o'clock, I'm retired, I don't care, we can meet 10 o'clock in the morning.
Are you retired now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's not have real people get their schedules based on retired
10
schedules,
o'clock in
okay?
the morning is super for me.
Some of us have to keep working.
4 o'clock?
How about the chairs work it out? You know, let the chairs work it out. And,
That
What,
4
15th?
o'clock would work.
At 4 o'clock works for me. 4 o'clock works for you?
4 o'clock on 15th?
4 o'clock on,
Oh.
no, 4 o'clock on the 12th.
No, I have a department conference call at 4 o'clock.
How about 4:30?
It's an hour call.
Well, that was at 6:30, we'll make it 5.
It's basically a listen only. 5 would work. We
5
spend an
o'clock
hour.
on the 12th.
April 12th, 5
12th.
o'clock?
well, like I said, our meeting starts at 6:30, so you're not giving a very large window there. Can't we pick another date other than the 12th?
This would be where you reach out.
Okay?
And touch each other, right?
Meeting that's public.
All right, we can
April
do the,
7th.
we can do,
The 7th is a Wednesday.
I mean, we can do
You out of town that whole week?
the 14th at 4 o'clock.
My 14th is open. You out?
14th is Wednesday?
14th is Wednesday.
Mr. Ashcraft is not,
We don't need him.
I don't know, we probably need him, he knows
got
how to
Mr.
explain
Parton.
everything.
Can we just do it earlier?
That's a, he's a
Can we
budget.
do like 4 to 6 or something on Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good for me. If it's like 4 to 6, that's good.
Yeah.
Or any time earlier than that.
4 to 6 to 14?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
That works.
I got to book this before I get in trouble. That's a Wednesday.
Yeah, how about 5 to 7?
We got to get people to their Wednesday church meetings.
4 to 6.
So 4 to 6. You coming from Spotsylvania?
Don't you go to church on Wednesday?
You coming from Spotsylvania?
Yeah, I'm coming. I mean, 4 to 6, I can do that.
Tammy?
Well, I'm just thinking about Mrs. Phelps.
She's coming from D.C.?
She comes from Richmond.
Richmond. There's no traffic that way.
Okay,
4 to 6
Thank you.
on the 14th.
all right, 14th, work session,
Right here.
right here.
River City, right here.
It'll be here or next door, one or the other.
We can set it up here.
All right,
Set it up here like round tables or something.
okay. All right, thanks to everyone for their participation on that, and we'll move on to the next agenda items.
We're not done.
We're not far from done. Item number 6, excuse me, has been taken care of. Item number 7, the update on the possible connection of Caroline Pine subdivision to the county water system. Mr. Borchak?
Did I tell you I had a 5:30 flight tomorrow?
Oh, really? I'm probably going to get
Tomorrow morning.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. And this all is passing out some information that we just recently got from, there are a number of people here from the Caroline Pines residents from the POA, and they have provided some additional information on their system and some of the issues they've been having. Also, I know the gentleman passed out some photos. I have a set of those photos myself. Have you all had a chance to look at the photos? Essentially, those photos kind of tell us why we're here this evening, because this is what these people are facing. And aside from the fact of the photos, they're also in the process right now and have been for a number of weeks, trucking in water. I believe I was told about 15 truckloads a week. 15 truckloads a week coming in. And so this is why we're here, to make sure we can move forward on this situation. What we've done since the previous meeting is had our consultant look into some of the possible funding alternatives, and we provided a memo with recommendations in it. He's looked into a number of the funding agencies where some federal monies might come, either in the form of loans or grants. The interesting portion on the grants part is that we really, based on the rates that we have, which according to the grant agencies are too low, so we don't qualify for grants. We would only qualify for loans. As we get into some of these agencies, looking at time requirements and additional engineering studies and a variety of other things that come kind of as strings attached to these loans, some of them would put us in a position where just going through the application and preparing the additional reports would not only increase the cost to do that, but drag out the time considerably. And so the recommendation in looking at all of these things is essentially that we proceed going through the Virginia Resource Authority, which we all know is the pooled lending source, and try to look at funding through them. We've already included funds in our current application, which would cover this. Their interest rate is quite competitive even with the other funding agencies. The pluses are, first of all, again, the timing. It would not take nearly as long. And also the fact that we would not have to be preparing one or possibly two additional engineering studies to submit with the application, which not only takes time but also adds considerably to what the cost is before we even get into the project of any design or putting pipe in the ground. So that's the recommendation from our consultant, and we're in concurrence with that to simply continue along those lines, looking for our source of funding and continuing to include that in our current application. As far as getting into what the funds will be doing, again, I've asked our consultant, and he has updated the financial modeling scenarios that were looked at previous meeting to bring them into line with what we would be looking at for a real percentage rate as opposed to assumed percentage rate in the other modeling, and to look at some of the cost reductions that we've already taken with putting some of the pipeline in that we did with the VDOT project. And again, considering this project really is what I, in the engineering world, would call a free body diagram. We cut it off entirely from the rest of the utilities fund and say, will this project support itself with the revenue that it brings in based on not only the initial connection fees from the initial residents, but also how many additional connections over the course of the 20 years would we have to look at? What are some conservative figures on that? How much revenue would we be bringing in based on a typical residential consumption, and what our rates are, and what our rates would be proposed to be over that 20-year period. And the spreadsheet that should have been passed out, and hopefully it's in a readable form. I know Mr. Parton said he had trouble printing it so you could all read it. I have this little tiny one that I need my magnifiers for. But at any rate, I think what the spreadsheet shows is that in order to make this a self-supporting project, that truly a very, very conservative amount of minimal additional connections over the next 20 years is what we'd have to look at. You know, again, based on our proposed rate structure increases, which are, again, not huge. We're looking at just some built-in over the next 20 years to keep our rates with what would be in line with our operations. And the spreadsheet also indicates that this is not simply putting the project in the ground and paying for it, but it's also looking at every year having monies available to put into the overall system as far as improvements to the rest of the pipeline that's in the system, so that we wouldn't simply run a pipeline down and then be looking at all of this pipeline that may or may not last. We would have some money to put in each year, and again, based on revenue from this portion of the system, not from the rest of the utility fund, to support the pipeline, to do some capital improvement in the community every year, and at the end of the 20 years, still come out with a positive balance in that portion of the fund where actually it would be a self-supporting initiative. So what we're asking is that the board would give us direction to really move forward with making sure we can get this financing in place so that then we can proceed with the design and construction. And I know there's been some talk as to what format that might take, and we can get into those issues, but until we have the okay to move forward and actually make sure we set in place the funding, then we can discuss the issues of the design and the construction and moving that whole project forward. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Board members, would y'all object to letting the folks from Caroline Pines Property Owner Associations give us an update of what they're currently going through with their system? As you saw earlier, photographs that was presented by a citizen in Caroline Pines, but they can basically, briefly, tell us the challenges that they're experiencing on these small lots that have existing drain fields on them. So,
oh, thank you very much.
Go ahead.
okay.
Bring the mic down.
Good evening, Supervisors. I'm Beth Masser from Caroline Pines, Breedy Church District. On Wednesday evening, February 3rd, 2010, we experienced a water crisis, and we are grateful to Maxie Roselle from the Caroline County Board of Supervisors, Joe Scheibel from the Superintendent of Public Utilities, and the Utility Maintenance Superintendent, Art Griffin, for their quick and eager response to the situation. They were on site within minutes of being notified and stayed well into the early morning hours. Within 4 hours of a system-wide shutdown causing complete loss of water, they were able to come up with a comprehensive plan to get us through on a short-term basis until the source of the loss could be determined. Maxie and Joe gave us everything they had to offer. They were attentive to our needs and delivered with expertise. We credit Maxie and Joe's timely intervention with saving us from a complete loss of our system, which could have caused great hardship for our entire community. Had it been delayed, we ran the very real risk of having to alert members in short order to boil all tap water by written notice and public announcements using available media such as TV and radio announcements, and also dealing with the Virginia Health Department. There was no question unanswered, no plan of action that wasn't thoroughly discussed with the directors of the board of CPPOA present, myself, Jamie Luchannon, our president, and Jim Scott. along with our office assistant, or our office manager, Doris White. And the 8 of us worked well together, and we got through the night, but it was indeed a real crisis situation. We had a complete shutdown. This was a wake-up call to our community and the county that we are in desperate need of improvement that CPPOA cannot fund on its own. We cannot keep this water system afloat without drowning financially. With the amount of new homes that have been built in the past 5 years, we simply do not have the resources available financially, adequate staffing, and the engineering expertise to run the small water system. We have increased the demand without having the financial backing to increase the supply. As you can see from the pictures that you've seen tonight, this is what we're facing on a daily basis. You know, it's a health risk. Some say it's not, some say it is, but we're at wit's end. We can't do this on our own. Thank you.
I'm John Bowers. I'm the Vice President of the Caroline Pines Property Owners Association. The crux of our issue right now is that our wells are simply getting old and they're not producing much water. Our distribution system seems to be fine. We had one repair that we needed to make over the winter, which, as Mr. Warshak will tell you, is in the wintertime, because the water temperatures change, you tend to have some failures. We had one small rupture, which was readily repaired. The wells are simply getting old. We have one well that's fairly new that was producing the bulk of our water, and its productivity has dropped by at least half in the last couple of years. So our water supply is way down, and what we're hoping the Board of Supervisors will do is basically hook us up to your system, because we need the water supply. But again, the distribution system, the pipes that we have within the community seem to be fine. I know you want to avoid buying a pig in a poke and running into a problem. But basically, the long-term plan is when we get hooked up, more or less to shut down all of our wells, maybe keep 1 or 2 of them as backups. But the problem we're having is with the quality and the quantity of water from our wells, and as you all know, that's very expensive to replace those. And we're hoping that in a timely manner we can get hooked up to the county water, and we have the substantial, almost unanimous support of the property owners to support this project. Thank you.
All right.
I'm Jamie Luchanan, the president of the association. I just wanted to say that the state always says our water is potable. As you can see the pictures, I don't know if anybody wants a drink, but I'll bring you some next time. So it's very difficult for our communities. We get calls every day about this water, and there's nothing that we can do, and we feel bad because we're trying to provide them with water, and we just don't have the means to do that for the community. And we tried to do everything by deepening the wells, widening the wells, and like John said, well 10, which is our #1 producer, was producing 80 gallons a minute in 2005. In 2007, it was down to 51 gallons a minute, and as of today, it's 35 gallons a minute. And several of our wells have been taken offline because they're pulling up dirt from the bottom, and they're just dry, and we just don't have any way to get the water to the people. And we really look to your direction for help. That's what we're really asking, is we're looking for your help, because that's what we need in Caroline Pines, is your guys' help to get us through this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Luchanan, and we appreciate. You're from Caroline Pines too, aren't you?
Yes, I am, and I would like to speak to the board to ask you, the Board of Supervisors, to please help us. These 3 people are board members. They help govern how we live out there. I'm just a plain old citizen who lives in Caroline Pines. Imagine putting a load of clothes in the washing machine and you thought you were washing whites and they came back yellow or beige. Well, that happened to me for the very first time, and I've lived in Caroline Pines for 7 years. And how do I dress a 10-year-old boy with a white shirt on top and a yellow one on the bottom, and that's supposed to be his underclothes? I just want you all to consider that, you know, we're just community, we're just a community, and we'd like to have your help because I can't drink it. It's deteriorating our appliances. I mean, literally, ice makers are deteriorating. The metal is deteriorating because of the water. And I've had mine replaced twice. Now I think my dishwasher's on the blink. But I just want you all to help us. We need your help. We can't do this alone. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Board members have questions of staff on that
John, what is
direction that they need.
If I may, Mr.
Ms. Popowitz.
John, what's causing the discoloration of the water at that deep level? Do we know?
We haven't specifically had it tested ourselves, but it's depending on whether it's a suspended solid or a colloidal issue, it's probably some sort of an iron issue, is my guess. But until we specifically have it tested, or at least look at what they've been turning into the health department. But and in the area that it is, that's probably what the issue is, some sort of iron issue with that.
Okay. Mr. Chandler, do you guys still use Sidner?
Yes.
Okay. What are they telling you about the water itself?
They really much said that we have to put in new tanks, put in new wells, and we have to do $5 million worth of upgrades.
Yeah. I noticed that they don't flush the lines because they can't find the end of the lines. You don't have hydrants there, or what?
No, we have flush out valves based on their recommendations. We put in several flush out valves. The problem with it is that our water supply is so low. We go to flush the lines out, and then we drain the tanks.
Oh, I see.
So we can't flush the lines like on a regular basis.
Okay.
Yeah, to give you just a little background on what the flushing really is, when you're going through a flushing program, ideally what you want to do is you want to maintain, first of all, a minimum velocity through the lines to actually flush them, which is typically at least in excess of 2.5 feet per second, ideally even more than that. And you also want to run through the lines at least twice the volume of the line itself. And by the time you look at what that is and compare it to what they have available, it's just not feasible.
Impossible to do. Okay. So we don't know what this, so we think it's iron. We don't know exactly for sure. You've got a low pressure, you've got low volume.
Right. Yeah, the pressure is right around 39. The day that we had the crisis, it went down to 20, and we dropped below 20 where we would have had to implement a boil notice. But right now it rides around 39 pounds per square inch.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have right now.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question.
Takers.
Mr. Borshak, based on this report here, we are showing that this system will be self-supportive as far as the payback of the loan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, what we've done again is, as I've said, is we sort of cut that off from the rest of the utilities fund and system and just looked at, you know, the residents there, any growth that we would expect to occur there or along that line. There have been some surveys done, you know, along the route with possibilities of people even outside the community. But if you look at the numbers, you'll see it's a very conservatively low number of new connections that we would require over the 20-year period. Plus, again, just basing the revenue on what a typical residential revenue would be, which is not much different. It's about the same as what they actually are doing now anyway. So they're using pretty much the same amount of water as what our typical users would use. So.
Now, the rates that are being proposed here are county rates?
The revenue rates.
What are you paying? Rates. You're not paying any type of water bills now, right?
$25 a month.
$25 a month?
Flat fee.
And actually, since they would be water-only customers, their bills would not really be much different than what they're paying now. typically now, 5,000 gallons would be somewhat over $20, so they'd still be paying about what they're paying now on the water bill.
How many homes is in Campbell, in Caroline Pines?
We have 368 as of today.
And-
So,
and-
during
368.
During the study, there was 366 homes that were counted. We've had two newly built homes.
Right.
G.H. Watts put them in. And we also had 4 other connections that needed to be added into that. So we're up to 6 more connections. And I know that the study showed that you had to have 40 over 20 years in order to, the bare bones minimum.
Right.
And we're already going into the picture with 6.
And how many empty lots do you have that could be buildable, not the
What was the
unbuildable?
empty lot?
672.
Right, we have 701 lots, and I think there was 300 more that are possible buildable lots.
So the possible, new homes for new connections are on actual lots that could be buildable in what we're looking at.
Help me, Mr. Bush. Based on with the payback here, I see the payback per month is going to be what? Per year, rather, on the loan.
Okay, the amortization on the loan is $191,000 and change
A year.
a year, right?
Okay. And so you're making up the difference because at 372 homes that's there now, and I think that's what we have to look at going into this process. At $20 a month times 12 months, that's about $80-some thousand a year. So how do we make up the difference between 191?
We're also looking at applying the reduced connection fees to the existing homes that we've talked about before.
And the residents in Caroline Pines understand that there's a $2,800 connection fee up front.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I support what Mr. Roselle's trying to do. I know we certainly can't not leave a community as large as Caroline Pines high and dry without water. So I'm just trying to figure how we can get there without.
If you look at what they have considered for the connection fees on the existing homes, it's somewhat over $1 million on the total just for the connection fees.
All right, got you.
$1,055,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Seeley?
You have 2 sets of figures on here, and a couple. Let me go down across the line, because currently what we're getting for water bills isn't paying any principal back on the rest of the county system, correct? All we're doing is maintaining operations with the current water bill.
The actual commodity rate, the water bill, yes, right. and that is essentially what that portion of the water fees is to do, to pay operations.
It just pays operations. So we're looking at, and I'm looking at the total annual gross expense in the column that you've given us, and I'm looking at what the deltas are, because what I'm looking at, it looks like we're under for a good long time when you look at excess revenue, overage, or over expense. It's all negatives. And I'm looking at, if I'm reading this right, the monthly water charge would have to include basically $55 a house per month to pay back principal on the loan. I mean, that's what I figured out. That's what you have here. And it rises over time because the actual gross annual cost rises as well. So you're looking at $20 for water plus the additional 55 plus annually it goes up. So you're looking at basically $70-some a month for water that rises at some point to, like, in 20 years.
Well, again,
120.
What is included in here is, if you look at the very top line all the way over that $1 million plus, that's the connection fee. That is not the commodity portion. Okay, that's what would come in from the connection fees from the existing homes. And so when you put that in as here's what we're starting with,